Well, good afternoon, or good morning, or good evening, depending upon where you are, and welcome to the SOCOM Virtual Town Hall. This is our first attempt at a town hall meeting, and I want to start off by thanking Dano Wade and his crew for kind of putting this together. I came to Dano just a couple of weeks ago and said, look, I want to pull together a virtual town hall meeting and figure out how we do this. And to his credit and that of his crew here, he's done a great job on very short notice kind of setting this up. So the way we're going to do this today is I'm going to make a few opening remarks, and then we've got different levels, if you will, of questions. We've got some folks that are live, and for those of you that are tapping in on Google+, you will be able to see that at the bottom, we've got folks from AFSOC, USSOC, WARCOM, MARSOC, JSOC, all kind of at the bottom of the screen there. And then we've got some tape-recorded questions that we will play. And then we've got some questions that will come in from Facebook, and we'll kind of take it in that order. First, obviously, this young lady beside me is my wife, Georgianne. Just kind of by way of background, Georgianne and I have been married about 35 years come this May. We've got 3 children. My oldest boy was born in 1979, and a week after he was born, I went on deployment for 8 months. My second son was born over in the Philippines in what we referred to colloquially as Jungle General, where they had no emergency care, no anesthesia. And then my final child, my daughter, was born while I was on deployment in Desert Shield, Desert Storm. And the only reason I raise that is to let you know, for the families out there, that we do understand what you as families have to go through. In my career of almost 36 years now, I've spent close to 10 years away from home. So, we can certainly empathize with you and with your problems, and hopefully we're going to be in a position to help you solve some of those problems. For the Gold Star families that are out there, let me first send my condolences to you. I can only imagine how tough it must be having to deal with the loss of a loved one. And you should know that everybody within our community keeps you in their thoughts and prayers. And for those of you that are spouses of our wounded warriors, the same condolences and thoughts go out to you. And as we'll talk through in this town hall, hopefully we're doing a lot to be able to provide you the support that you need. Earlier this week, I had an opportunity to testify on Capitol Hill. On Tuesday, I was at the Senate Armed Services Committee, and on Wednesday at the House Armed Services Committee. And candidly, it might surprise a lot of folks, but I actually enjoy doing that. It is democracy at work. And what you should know of your elected officials is, to a man and a woman, these are very good people. They are always trying to do what's right by the soldier, sailor, airman, marine, and DOD civilian. And I always enjoy my office calls with them, and frankly, I enjoy the opportunity to get in front of them in an open hearing and have an opportunity to talk about the issues that we here at SOCOM are dealing with. And as I said, I'm always pleased at how receptive they are and how supportive they are of the needs of everybody in the Department of Defense. But in my capacity as the SOCOM commander, they've been particularly helpful for us. I want to talk about a couple of issues right up front that I know will come up in some of the questions. So I think I can probably get them out on the table right now. The 2 things you've probably been hearing about are the CR, or the continuing resolution, and the sequester. Now, a little bit of a tutorial here if I can, but the continuing resolution basically says that as the SOCOM commander, and this is true of the service chiefs as well, that we're only allowed to spend at the fiscal year 12 levels, and we're in fiscal year 13 now. The president has already provided the fiscal year 14 budget, and in fact, we are working on a fiscal year 15 budget. But what the continuing resolution does is it restricts us to spend at the fiscal year 12 level. Well, the budget that the president had submitted, the fiscal year 13 budget, actually had a $1.5 billion increase for SOCOM. So that means that based on the continuing resolution, we are actually short $1.5 billion as a result of the continuing resolution. The other problems that the continuing resolution kind of hinders us with a little bit is our flexibility, because some of the language in the CR means that we can't have new start programs, and we had a number of programs that we were beginning in fiscal year 13. It also restricts some of the military construction, so some of the buildings we were going to build starting in 13. We can't spend money on that. And then some modifications. Having said that, I heard yesterday in my discussions with the members on the Hill that they are working to pass an appropriations bill that will go along with an extension of the continuing resolution that should give us some flexibility. So we hope that members on the Hill are able to resolve their differences and get that approps bill passed, because that will certainly help us. So that's the continuing resolution. Now, what you've heard about a lot is the sequestration. Sequestration really for us amounts to about 10% of our budget. So we have a budget of $10.4 billion. That was the proposed budget for FY13, and for FY14 about the same, maybe a little bit more. But the fact of the matter is, so we're taking about a $900 million cut to the SOCOM budget. The hard part about sequestration, and this is why it has been a little bit frustrating, I think, for some of the members in the service, is that the sequestration, one, it is a substantial amount of money, of course, coming out of the Department of Defense budget, but also the cuts are taken kind of across the board. So we don't get an opportunity to kind of prioritize where we would take those cuts. We are just told across all of our what we call program lines, you have to take a 10% cut. So when you take the continuing resolution, $1.5 billion, you add to that the sequestration of $900 billion, that essentially takes away about 23% of our budget. Now, again, we are working with members of Capitol Hill. We're working with the Office of the Secretary of Defense, referred to as OSD, to do the best we can to resolve these. And of course, my job as the combatant commander, as the SOCOM commander, is to make sure that the resources are appropriately applied to ensure that we've got the right forces forward to be able to take care of the nation's business. A couple things, though, that are not going to be affected by sequestration or the continuing resolution. The military pays will, in fact, not be cut. So any concerns from members out there, their spouses, that there might be a cut to military pay, that's not part of sequestration. For the civilians that are online and listening to this, you do know that there's a furlough coming up. The furlough basically says that over the course of starting in late April, I believe, right? Late April till the end of September, so till 30 September, the civilians have to take about 22 days of non-paid leave. So clearly that does affect our civilian base, and we understand that that is a struggle for some folks, but that is part of the sequestration law. Finally, I want to talk about, or actually two more things. I want to talk about what I can't do as the SOCOM commander. So again, if I can, a little bit of a tutorial here. I am one of 9 what we refer to as combatant commanders. So you have geographic combatant commanders. So these are folks like the Central Command Commander, General Jim Mattis, the Pacific Command, Admiral Sam Locklear, AFRICOM, SOUTHCOM. So we have geographic areas, and they are combatant commanders. And then you have Transportation Command, which is one of them, myself as SOCOM, and then Strategic Command. And we are the 3 what we refer to as functional combatant commanders. But as a combatant commander, there's some things that I have no oversight or no purview of. So I've seen a number of the questions that were provided ahead of time, and there's always a lot of discussion about, can you help us with daycare? Can you help improve the schools? What about the commissaries and the chapels and those sorts of service? And so I want to be clear as we go forward on this that I'm going to do everything I can do to help the service members and their families. But I also want to be realistic, and I want to be upfront with you, and I don't want to promise you something that I can't deliver. And the fact of the matter is, in some cases, they are non-appropriated funds. So for the commissaries, for example, these are non-appropriated funds. And again, I have no say over that. In some of the services, they are provided by when I say the services with a small s, those are provided by the individual services, the Army, Air Force, Navy, Marine Corps. And again, I can advocate on your behalf for improvements to daycares and schools and things like that, but I don't really control any of the amount of money that goes into that or the readiness of those particular areas. But again, when you have problems like that, and I spent 6 of the last 8 years were in Fort Bragg, and I know we would work with the garrison commander there, and the garrison commander would take that on as one of his responsibilities to take care of the school problems and the commissaries and things like that. And we'd certainly encourage you to work through your command with the garrison commanders. And I guess the final point here before we start opening it up for questions is I made a point of testifying and telling members of Congress that my #1 priority outside of having combat-ready forces is really the preservation of the force and the families. And I think most of you here that are listening are aware that a couple of years ago, my predecessor, Admiral Eric Olson, did what was called the Pressure on the Force Task Force, what we called the POTF then. And he went out and his team went out under the auspices of Chaplain Tom Soljan. And they interviewed about 7,000 service members, about 1,000 spouses, had somewhere in the neighborhood of 440 different meetings, spent about 10 months trying to take a look at the health of the force. And Admiral Olson, I think at the time, correctly portrayed the health of the force as being frayed. That report landed on my desk about the time I took command. And again, recognizing where I come from, I came into the Navy in 1977. And most of the folks that raised me in the military, if you will, were Vietnam veterans. And frankly, we didn't do as good a job, we, the nation, didn't do as good a job as we should have in taking care of those veterans. And I watched them go through a lot of difficult times. They had problems with alcohol, with drugs, they had marital problems, the full range of problems, and there really weren't a lot of mechanisms out there at the time to help take care of them. Well, you need to know I'm committed to doing everything I can to ensure that that doesn't occur to this generation, your generation of young soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, spouses, DoD civilians who have given so much to this nation. Where I can, I want to help you solve problems and make sure that we put you in a position to be healthy, to be resilient, and again, to take care of your families and your spouses. So one other thing, and I will periodically refer to my notes here, so bear with me. On the POTF side, to give you a sense of what we're trying to do here, we got together with a lot of the family readiness groups. We got together with the service components to try to find out what your needs were. And I'll be the first to tell you that we probably got it wrong. But what I didn't want to do was spend 5 years studying the problem and not have an opportunity to make a difference. So we went and got together with as many people as we could, as rapidly as we could, and we tried to find out what your requirements were and what I could do legally, again, legally as a combatant commander with a limited budget. And I started to talk about my role. I have a budget, but that budget by law is restricted to mainly taking care of the service members. Now, having said that, I have gone forward with a proposal to allow me to use some of that money to take care of the families where the services are not providing the resources necessary. But in that light, we were able to go out and contract for a number of folks to be able to help with what we now call the preservation of the force and the families. So we've contracted for approximately 127 behavioral health individuals, 350 human performance, 27 family readiness staff. So this includes folks like psychologists, social workers, nurse case managers, physical therapists, strength and conditioning coaches, and performance dietitians. And one of the arguments that I presented to the Senate and the House yesterday and the day before yesterday was they need to help me with this being my ability to spend MFP 11 money. One, it's the right thing to do to help the families, but two, from the standpoint of readiness, I can make a direct linkage between the readiness of the service member and the resiliency and the health of the families. And therefore, I think we have a pretty good argument as we go forward to be able to find that sweet spot where it's not service money and the services are doing everything they can. And by the way, we have a great relationship with the services. I am very appreciative of the great help I'm getting from all the service chiefs. But there is, in some cases, a shortage, and I want to be able to put my, what we call Major Force Program 11 money against some of these shortfalls. And And I will tell you that as I talk to the members up on Capitol Hill, all of them understand and appreciate the great sacrifices that our members and their families have been through, and they are very appreciative of that and want to help.